Hey, everybody. Welcome to Signals from the Frontline, your Wednesday live cast brought to you by Frontline Gaming. We are your host, Kicker, the chief of Serial, the Sigilite of Frontline Gaming, and not Seth. I'm not Seth. I'm Nicky Dee, producer and flannel fan, and fill-in host for tonight. Kicker, how are you tonight, bud?
I am doing great. I've got a nice carbonated beverage tonight. My wife got me some bougie drink, Olipop ginger lemon. I have no idea
Ooh.
what the hell it is, but it is it's a bit spicy. But yeah, life is good, guys. If you're listening to our podcast, please consider watching us live every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you can see the beverage of choice for that night, as well as hobby progress. Check out my hobby progress. It is not as impressive as what I normally produce on
Is
the
is
show.
that a Riptide or a
No,
Ghost
it's a
Scale?
ghost keel from
Ghost Scale. Okay.
Tau. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. So, guys, I hate Tau. Like, I really hate Tau, but I love Kroot, and I can't wait till the Kroot releases are coming. I have no idea when, and I'm really, really desperate to start like working on that. But I figured, Kroot could probably use some like, some heavy hitters. So I'm like, okay, I'll work on a few ghost keels because I feel like I can go with kind of like a stealth vibe. I don't know, Kroot up front,
Yeah.
stealth suits in the back. I don't know. So that is my first Tau miniature I've ever assembled, and I did not enjoy it. Not one bit. I just don't like the Tau aesthetic at all. I'm sorry. Just not
Now,
doing it for me.
Kroot in the front, Tau in the back. Is that like the 40K version of a mullet?
Yeah, exactly, right? Perfect. Well, I mean, almost reverse, right? Because we need the Kroot in the back. They're like the party animals, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we should flip it. But yeah. It is. It's gonna be fun. I don't know. It seems like it'll be a fun list. I have no idea if it's gonna be any good. I got to see if the what the codex brings. But it's at least something to keep me entertained till I get some new Kroot miniatures to paint. What about you, dude? Have you been doing anything productive?
Yeah, so I actually played in a trios tournament this past weekend. Talked about it last week. So
Wait,
I
a trios. We got to explain that. Is that three distinct games taking place, or is it one army comprised of three players, all like a 3,000 point game or something?
three players
Okay, three players,
and three
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 games.
players. One, so you as a team you play two games at the same time. One of the players plays a full 2,000 point list. The other, like in the picture that is now on screen, my buddy Chad and I, we are playing together with two 1,000 point armies. Each we're playing against another team that has two 1,000 point
This is
armies.
the
So there's
weirdest format I've ever heard of,
so
man.
there's one of our players is playing a full 2K game versus 2K, and then the other two of us play it's still a 2K game, but it's comprised of us playing 1,000
Dude,
points.
that's a little like weird. I mean, okay, so is this like a reoccurring thing that you guys do in Maryland? Is this like a
No, actually, this was modified from what Nova does as a trios event.
okay,
So
cool.
yeah, so
Wow.
we ran that and had a great time with it. My team, we finished in second place.
All right.
So we were shooting for
Congrats.
first. We lost our second game by a combined 9 points, and that team we lost to was the team that won the whole thing. So that part not. We had a great showing. We had a great showing for the event. Had a great time with it. Our team scored the most battle points. We had a great time, but we just didn't get that W. So I've got more games this weekend. I'll be playing at the Battle to End Alzheimer's this weekend. We talked about that last week. I ran Necrons last week. I'll be running Demons this upcoming week. So I got to mix up some things here and there. But speaking, though, I'm going to go back a second here, Kicker. Folks already saw that our friend Seth is not here tonight. He is celebrating Valentine's Day, but he
Oh, he's a
did.
responsible significant other, unlike you and I, who are spending Valentine's Day
I
recording.
I made sure to schedule my Valentine's Day date for tomorrow night, for Thursday. So
Oh,
we had that part covered. But yeah, Seth is working on his Necrons. He wants everybody to know that he is busy getting them ready so that you will see his Necrons at Cherokee.
oh, look
His
at those! Look at those!
Yeah.
Describe his miniatures because Seth can't describe them here. What,
Yeah,
what, what
so
are we looking at?
this is his custom scheme that he's been working on for Necrons when he started collecting them back in eighth or ninth edition. Very like a silver metallic for the body and the spine on the wraiths, but then their claws and their appendages are kind of black in how they're set up, but then with orange claws and lights. So the orange really pops on it. I like that a lot actually. It's very vibrant with but simple. right? Only a
Yeah.
couple colors that are in there, but it really
But it
does pop.
pops, yeah. And Seth, kudos to him. He's staying on top of it, man. He knows he has a goal. He's got to be ready for Cherokee, and he's plugging away, knocking one unit out at a time out. So good job on him. Well, guys, thank you if you are listening to us right now live in chat. You can be our Valentines for the day. I mean, geez, I feel kind of terrible that we're doing this without our my wife. We don't do like date nights on weekdays. We're just too busy, so we'll do our date night on Friday. But
There you
all
go.
right. Let's talk about some Frontline Gaming, GW, nerd news, all the good stuff, right? Let's start off with Games Workshop news. The Kroot Trail Shaper. Yes, I was talking about Kroot earlier, and I'm talking about him again. It's another model. It's another Kroot miniature. It's a little interesting that we have a third I think it's the third character they've now announced
I think
for
so.
this new Kroot release. I look at this miniature and he's great. I kind of like the weapon being reloaded or whatever, but it just doesn't have the "hey, look at me, I'm a character" aesthetic we've come to know and love from Games Workshop manufactured characters. He just looks like an average Joe, or I guess an average Kroot. I don't know. He's not really standing out to me, which is not necessarily a terrible thing. I feel like it's something that you can easily just replace with any old model. What do you think, Nick?
Now, Kicker, I mean, you referenced Average Joe, so I want to see somebody paint this as Average Joes from the movie Dodgeball, and like
Of
let's get a
course.
let's get a Crude Army Average Joes versus Globo Jim,
There
Purple
you go.
Cobras.
Perfect. Let's do
I
it.
want
Let's
that.
do it.
Actually, is this a model that already exists in the Crude range and is just getting a model refresh, or is this brand new?
So traditionally, or I guess historically, they've been these shaper characters for Kroot, and it was a shaper that was the
Mhm.
character for Kroot. Now it looks like they're taking that same concept of this shaper leader and making it into, I guess, 1, 2, 3 distinct shapers, each with their own like kind of specialty. So one seems to be a
Okay.
combat shaper, one looks like he's going to be a buffing shaper, and then this guy looks like based off the rules that GW's reviewed. I'm not leaking anything that hasn't already been
Yep.
stated publicly. That this guy will be able to redeploy miniatures, which is always a good little trait, being able to redeploy after we know who goes first. So that alone is a reason to bring him. But yeah, I wasn't blown away with his looks just because he doesn't really stand out. Does he have a tactical rock? I didn't notice. Did he have
Oh,
tactical rock?
there's
Okay.
tactical.
That,
There's
that,
tactical. He's got
okay.
he's got two. It almost kind of looks like an Empire Strikes Back when Yoda is stacking or Luke is stacking rocks for Yoda. Like
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what he's getting to
So
there.
he's
That's
got
what
the Luke
that's what
on
it
rock
reminds me
pose.
of.
Okay, cool. We have to start naming the tactical rock formations, I guess, or poses. So, all right,
Yep.
great. Yeah, no, but anyway, another miniature. It's always good to see more new stuff. But we've got other stuff coming out. The new Cities of Sigmar Flesh Eater Courts Spearhead box. So this is
Mhm.
one of those kind of start collecting boxes. What's
Yep.
interesting though is they're calling it a Spearhead. Did I miss this? When did they transition the name to Spearhead? Is that the new?
I noticed it, Kicker. It's funny you say that because I noticed it when I was preparing the notes a few weeks ago,
Yeah,
as it relates to the shows. And basically, I don't know. Right in 40K, we have their combat patrol
yeah.
boxes, and there is a
Currently,
combat.
they're combat patrols. They used to be
Yep.
start collecting, and
Yeah, and Combat Patrol is a version of the game you can play in 40K. Now, I am not intimate enough with Warhammer Age of Sigmar to know if Spearhead is a smaller version of the game.
yeah,
If it's not, then maybe it'll be a new version in the not so distant future. That would just be my guess. Again, based on Combat Patrol for 40K.
yeah, yeah. Another box set. This was actually up for pre-order. Went up for pre-order last week.
Mhm.
But I want to touch on it. Our friends at GW sent me this box, the Fangs of the Blood Queen. So this went up for
Yeah.
pre-order last week, and I just wanted to say that I guess a nod of approval or a thanks maybe. I really appreciate that GW has been including more and more critters in their box sets, more and more animals, dogs. I mean, there's that whole Cities of Sigmar kit with like multiple dogs, and even there's a little tiny little Kroot baby hound in one of the upcoming miniatures they've shown. So anyway, I really like that this whole box is basically just dogs and bats and a leader. So I don't know. What do you guys think in chat? Do you like more animals in the in your game system? Do you think your warriors should have pets? I know Nick, you're a dog lover. You'd love to have
Mhm.
some canine friends along to battle with you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm running Flesh Hounds in my
Oh, there we go.
demons list this weekend, so that's my
There we
demon
go.
dogs that are here.
There we
Kicker, while we're waiting for chat to respond to that question, I will note that downvoting people in chat confirms that in the reveal for these boxes and Games Workshop article, they did mention that Spearhead is the new name or is the new name for those boxes.
Ah,
So or how they're going to be set. So that is a new thing that they are doing, confirmed. we'll find out what it means.
New
More,
terminology.
yeah, more beyond that. So, as it relates to critters or little things that are going to be included, our friend Dean shouts "critters for the critter god"
Yeah.
in chat here. So he is a big fan of having lots of little things to go with the army. That's included there, but that's what we've got so far. So,
Can I admit something to you? I'm slightly embarrassed, but I started
yeah.
an entire Space Wolf army. I think at the beginning of 8th edition, purely because I like the Phoenician wolves. Like I just like, oh, I want doggos, I want dogs. I don't think that was a good idea to start that army. I quickly discontinued it, despite me having, I think, 15 dogs, beautifully painted, or I should say wolves. I painted them all to look like coyotes. Actually, I was like, oh, they look really badass, but they rarely see the tables now.
That was going to be my question kicker, is
yeah.
how you painted them, because back when I played Warhammer Fantasy and I played the ogres, they had the saber tusks.
Yeah.
I painted them. They're big dogs, cats, something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
growing up, I had collies like Lassie, so I painted mine like Lassie because it was like, if I'm gonna have the models on the table, I want them to look like my dog, right?
Yeah, of course, of course,
That
of
was my
course. I
thought
mean, like
process.
that's the natural, option. Like that's what you do, right? Yeah, yeah. I really love the paint job on my wolves, my Phoenician wolves, but they just, I just don't like playing Space Wolves. All right, let's jump on to, I guess, pre-orders are going up for this pre-order this weekend. Nick, why don't you start us off? What's getting released this weekend?
Pre-order this weekend, everybody. If you like Space Marines and you want to get individual units from the Leviathan box set, you are in luck. Basically, anything that wasn't already available as a standalone from Leviathan is now up for pre-order. So this is going to be the Captain, but the Captain and Terminator Army armor, but it does come with different weapon options. So that's going to be, I think, a pretty popular one just because of the weapon options. Aside from that, you're going to get Heroes of the Chapter, which is they've been doing
Oh,
this with
guys,
a few. Yeah, they've been doing this with a few where it's a couple of like characters boxed together. But this includes the Stern Guard, Apothecary Biologist, which is very popular, and then a Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, which we're not seeing quite as much in Space Marine list as we used to, but still common enough. The Ballistus Dreadnought, that's also up for pre-order. The Infernus Squad, and then two other squads that were not available from Leviathan, but were available from the Kill Team box set.
yeah.
Kicker. This is the Space Marine Scout Squad. You can get 10 of them. And then the Striking Scorpion, the Eldar squad, 10 of them. So a lot of things up for pre-order. I expect it's going to be a pretty popular week for pre-orders, just because a lot of those are units that people are going to want to throw into their army.
So pick one. So you say you're treating yourself to a new Space Marine unit based off of what we've seen so far with 10th edition. Which one of these Space Marine sets is the one to buy? Say you're investing in Space Marines. You're going to go buy something this weekend. What is the most popular? I mean, I know you're not. You do play Blood Angels, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Are we buying the Captain Terminator armor? Is that the one?
That's the most customizable one, and like I think that'll be the one that might be most popular among hobbyists. But the Heroes of the Chapter with Stern Guard, they're not going to be the interest point. It's more so going to be Apothecary Biologist and the
Yeah.
Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, right? Like there's always going to be folks looking to pick up one, maybe more of those. And then aside from that, I'd probably say the Ballistus Dreadnought. People love stompy robots, and Ballistus Dreadnought is exactly that.
Yeah,
I think
nice.
to me,
Well, he's a
Heroes of the
stompy
Chapter
shooty robot. He's got,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, up for pre-order this weekend as well is more Legion Imperialis, aka epic stuff. We've got another book. We've got some support for the Solar Auxilia, the Astartes. There's a couple tanks, some Malkador and Valdor tanks, Spartan assault tanks. Just more stuff for that game system. It's nice to see it steadily continue to roll out.
For sure.
Let's jump into the Frontline Gaming news, guys. Cherokee is next week. We do this event about a week before the event. We have this giant post with all the info that will be coming out likely on Friday. Yeah, please need to read it. It's got everything you need to know and more. Look for it. It'll be on the Frontline Gaming website as well as on all our social media. And if you've bought a ticket, it'll likely get emailed to you as well. And exciting stuff for this year, guys. Duncan Rhodes, he's sending a team member from his staff to go and help teach you how to paint. He'll be there all weekend long. They'll be demoing Duncan's paint, but it's pretty cool. The guy will be there from his team all weekend there to help you, as well as Jacob from Hobby Goblins, who's always happy to help teach people how to paint as well. And we'll have the photo opportunities that you had at LVO. If you didn't go to LVO, we'll have the big backdrop so you can take photos with those cool Hobby Goblin props, the weapon replicas and stuff, with the ruined battlescape behind you, and so all good stuff. Rocky Mountain Open, guys. There's only a few spots left. This is the event taking place in March, so right on the heels of Cherokee. There are a few spots left for Age of Sigmar. 40K is basically sold out. We added a few more tickets just because people begged, and so we added a few more, but Age of Sigmar we won't be able to add more after the last, I think, 2 or 3 sell out. And more stuff will be announced about Rocky Mountain Open after Cherokee. We just gotta get through Cherokee before we can stay all the other fun stuff happening there. But there will be a after hours social party at one of the local breweries. And BAO, that's on the horizon, guys. Old World is happening. This will be the first time Frontline Gaming has ever held an Old World event, I guess, since I've been at the company. And it's going to be a whole new world for us. So, well, it's going to be a new world playing Old World. I don't know.
Yeah, new Old World.
New Old World. Yeah, right. And new for BAO this year, there'll be way more swag bundled in with your ticket. We're trying something new, something that a lot of people have asked for. So basically, you'll get a ticket, and your ticket will have a bunch more stuff included with it. Give us a week or two, and those tickets should be live. And finally, guys, Champions Cup. Yes, there will be set terrain. A lot of people have been asking about it. The terrain will be set. It will likely be composed of 3 different styles of terrain. Definitely WTC, likely GW, and then a third one that will be kind of a wild card. It will all be in the player packet. The player packet should be released sometime next month with the specific terrain sets that will be used. But definitely WTC, and all 3 will be set terrain with very clear layouts. And let's hop into nerd news. Nick, this is you, man. Do we have anything interesting in the pop cultural world? I mean, what's going on, man? Come on, some TV stuff, some movies.
Oh boy.
You got something?
Yeah, a big one. We got this past weekend. There was this Super Bowl, obviously.
Oh yeah,
but we're not here to talk about sports, folks, unless it's Blood Bowl, because we would talk about Blood Bowl. We would talk about Blood Bowl for sure. Yeah. No, kicker, Deadpool and Wolverine. It is the big Marvel movie coming out this year. It is part of the MCU, or as the movie states, it's Deadpool going to kill or destroy the MCU. But the big part here, you're getting Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. We're getting Hugh Jackman Wolverine. Now, they were in a movie together many years ago, in a Wolverine X-Men movie, but folks, we're not going to talk about that. We all know that was just a bad fever dream. This is going to be the Deadpool and Wolverine movie that I think we're all really, really looking forward to. Now, so kicker, Deadpool, how are you a Deadpool fan? Are you a fan of the Deadpool movies? Does this have you excited?
I mean, so I'm going to be straight up, man. I could care less about Deadpool, but Wolverine, now That's we're fine. Talking. I'd say he's my spirit animal. I don't know. I used to have serious mutton chops like Wolverine. Mm-hmm. I was mistaken for Wolverine many times in college. It's a lot, I just, it was big fan of Wolverine. That is my X-Men of choice. Clearly though, you are a Deadpool fan, right?
Yeah, love Deadpool. So I love Deadpool. I've read many. I own many of the different comic series that Deadpool's been in. Absolutely favorite of mine. Ryan Reynolds is the perfect casting. That's there for him, and I can't wait for it. This is Marvel Cinematic Universe has been really up and down since Endgame and Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
Probably more misses than hits. I say that as a fan myself, but Deadpool and Wolverine, could not be more excited for it. So go check out the trailer if you haven't had a chance to already. Definitely worth a
Do we know when the movie goes public, when it's going to be available?
This summer? I don't remember the exact date. I'll have to look and confirm that next week when Seth and I are back for next week's show. Yeah. But it's coming sooner rather than a few months, but cool. It'll be this year.
Cool. Hey, did you hear about the Aliens prequel thing that's happening? It looks like there's going to be some sort of Aliens series. Is that right? That's kind of cool.
On my radar, it's a prequel to the Alien series, but I think supposed to be after the Prometheus TV or movie. Excuse me, yeah. If you've seen that, it's going to be on FX. So if you have Hulu for streaming, you should have access to that as well. I don't know when it starts or when that's going to be available.
No.
Personally, for me, Alien, the first one, and then Aliens, the sequel, are two of my favorite horror and action films ever. Most of the movies and things in the series after that have largely been lackluster, but I just love those first two so much that I will go and check out this series when it
and I don't think you're alone in saying that, Nick. I think a lot of people say and believe firmly that the first two are Aliens, or what the whole franchise should be focused around. So hopefully the creators of this new series are paying a respect to the original movies. So, all right, cool. We should hop into our main segment, talking about playing against horde armies. Nick, you want to give us a little summary here?
Yeah, so as Kicker and I were preparing for this week's show and what we wanted to talk about, right now we've got Cherokee, and next week is going to be the big preview of Cherokee and who's going to be at Cherokee. Seth and I will cover that, and we'll obviously cover the results from Cherokee the week after. But we're trying to figure out, well, what do we want to talk about this week? One of the things that we're kind of seeing right now is it's a funky meta, right? We're now after this balanced data slate, but even, before that at LVO, we saw some kind of unique armies. The big thing here is that there are some horde armies, so just lots and lots of little bodies that are starting to pop up. We saw this at LVO with Nid Swarm making the top 4, and we've seen this with a few other armies, even just changes with the meta. Devastating Wounds, for a long time now, they don't spill over. That was
It's a huge deal. Huge
right?
deal.
It was a big limiter because, kicker, you play guard, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a squad of 10 or 20 guardsmen and you get hit by one Wraith Knight shot, and it's there goes 12 of your guardsmen,
They're
right?
all gone.
And
Yeah.
that's everybody, that's everything. But now with that change to Devastating Wounds, your units can kind of stay on the board a little bit. Between that and then as the meta is shifting and updating, there are some armies that are bringing more tanks, more, heavy support weapons, other items like that, lots of big weapons. And as more tanks are being brought into the meta, people are gearing up their weapons or their squads with weapon options that are meant to kill tanks. That does create kind of a sweet spot where if you've got an army that has just a lot of little guys running up and down the field, it becomes its own stat check. Most people think of stat check for just lots of big guys, but it does work in the reverse as well.
I never thought about that. Yeah. Can you clear a horde?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. But it is an item where, I myself, I love to play big monsters. That's what I prefer. And that's what I like to have. That's what I like to hobby. Kicker, you're a guy that plays guard. You play AdMech with lots of infantry and, other things.
Dude,
like
I play orcs too, right? I
yep.
like my horde armies for some reason. And I never thought that I didn't want to play a horde army because I'm like, oh, I want to play hordes. I think are cool. I just kind of stumbled into it. The more I play horde armies, the more I like having a lot of stuff on the table. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good and bad, right? Playing this unit, but let's talk about the good first. I mean, it's thematic. It's cool to see the visual immersion of looking at the table and just seeing this sea of guys charge forward just looks cool. And that gets me kind of, really invested in it. But I also, I like the, I'm going to go right to the big reason, man. I love that the army can take a punch. You have redundancy. So it's not like you have this one, it's the exact opposite of knights. You lose a knight, a quarter, maybe a third of your army's dead, right? It's over. Mm-hmm. With hordes, especially the way guard play currently, where you can recycle them through the reinforcement strat. But a lot of the other horde armies have something kind of like that, the fact that you can take a punch and it's not that big of a deal, it makes it way more comfortable for me because I don't get I want to be able to know that I can go second and not get totally obliterated, right? I want to be able to know that I can take a risky move and it's okay if I lose those guys. I want to be able to throw some guys on an objective, know they're going to die, but at least they're going to score the objective that I'm going for or the little mission. So I think that's one of the really advantageous things to play hordes. Now, I am not a super competitive player. I'm not somebody qualified to talk about the competitive reasons, but that's just what I found in my own little world. But one thing you did touch on though, man, is that hordes, a lot of people are bringing las cannons or their equivalent right now. Those don't do crap to hordes, and it has been really, really nice for me as a guy running a lot of small little bodies. That okay, whatever, just ignore those. I don't care. I don't care at all. I don't care at all. What about you? Have you ever tried playing a horde army, Nick?
So I got into Warhammer playing Skaven in Fantasy.
Yeah.
So, horde army with rank and flank, that's a whole different animal. And when I switched to playing 40K, I really didn't want to play a horde army because I already had that experience. So that's part of the reason why I started playing Blood Angels. But then when I started playing Death Guard in 8th edition, I was running Death Guard list with 60, 80 Poxwalkers, which, a similar feel that goes to it. So I've had some of that experience again. Necron Warriors in 9th edition, early parts of 10th edition with, Silver Tide was the thing. I've not to the extreme that others have for myself in 40K because I'm not sure I want to go back there. To that, just not my preferred play style for playing hordes and for playing the game, but you see it. And so this is where I wanted to go as well, Kicker, for our conversation, because there's a lot of aspects that go to playing a horde. And it can be a very taxing element in a lot of different ways. Normally, what's the big thing that you hear about when it comes to playing a horde army? It's people worrying about, am I going to clock out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you're at a big event. There's a lot of people where as soon as they see an opponent on BCP that they're paired against, that it's horde orcs, it's horde mids,
Yeah.
it's horde guard, whatever it is. The first thing that they're probably going to do is, hey, let's make sure we get a clock so that the guard player, can stay out in time. I will.
Was that why you decided not to play hordes, or why you decided that's not your play style of choice?
It's part of it, but the part for me, it's a lot to do. And for me, it's more so I just that's a lot to keep track of over the course of 3 games in a day, or 3 games over multiple days.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I like the monsters. I don't have to worry about so many different moving pieces, right? Beginning of 10th edition here, when I was playing demons, my list was basically 5 big monsters and a couple other units to do actions. So when I'm playing a 2 or 3 day event, it's less mental load.
Yeah.
It's less stress on my brain that I have to worry about. Now, it means every action that I take, it means it matters more. But over the course of several days, I was worried about making sure that I treated the game and the event as a marathon and not a sprint. Whereas when you're playing a horde, my experience is it feels like you're always having to sprint to move your models, to make your action, to get everything in the right position.
So I'm not, like I said, I'm not the uber competitive player here. I do play horde armies traditionally, and I've been playing for a long time. And one of the things I've found, and I think is pretty much I'm going to say a fact, but a reality, is that a lot of the more diehard dedicated horde players are not the ones timing out. They are super efficient with their movements. They've got it down to a very, I don't know, it's a skill set they've developed over the years. And I find that's actually one of the fun things for me as a horde player, is that it keeps me moving. So when I'm moving, I'm like, oh, go, 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 go. In case you haven't realized, I'm a pretty high octane guy. So running around a table, moving miniatures keeps me excited, and almost like an adrenaline rush to me. When I am on a clock, right? When I'm playing friends that want to go on a clock, it's like it's like a game within a game for me. Like, I want to go ahead and be super efficient with everything I do. Like, you know what? I'm not going to fire that squad. Their little lasguns are not going to make a difference. Or that blob of 10 guys. I play far more with intent than maybe some people do. And I'll say, okay, these guys are deep striking in. They're just deep striking 9 inches away from those guys. I'm just putting them in a cluster right here. Let's go into the next step of the game. They'll make their charge, or they don't make their charge. Or they're within rapid fire range. They're not. I'll adjust them when we have some more time. But let's just keep this game going. Especially moving with big blobs of 20. Now I was going to say 10, but that's the thing of the past. Moving blobs of 20 now. You can run 20 orcs, you can run 20 guard. What I'll do is I'll move the front rank, I guess, the front 5 up front, and then I'll just move the rest all directly behind them, but like one big pile behind them. As close as I can to them. One big. It's not pretty sometimes, but at least it keeps the game going. And my friends and the people I usually play with kind of get what I'm doing. It's very much with intent. But what do you think about some of the other detriments? Because there's many reasons what you need to be, like, many things you should be cautious of what going the horde route. Are there things that scared you off? Or
well, so before I jump into that, I'll note a couple things actually from our chat kicker, and it's some people with D, names that begin with D, that are active as it goes to this topic. So Dorian, who's usually in the chat, notes that it's even more important to think out your turns when you're playing horde during your opponent's turn. Right? You should be doing that anyways, but it just amplifies it that much more because of how big everything, how big your units are, how much board space you're taking.
He's 100% right. Right in your opponent's turn, you should be already plotting out where I'm going to move that brick of guys. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dorian.
Yep. And then Dean notes that as it comes to this, that he's barely finished his games when playing orcs or playing against orc horde, and that it really becomes what you need to do is focus on doing things in the game that matter.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't matter, don't do it. So what could this mean in a game of 40K? And this is generally when it comes to how you play in Kicker, the question that you presented. Your actions are going to matter more. So you need to focus early and often on getting them off primary, because otherwise they'll just drown you in bodies on the objective, and you score the game, right? 40 points of the game, or 45, excuse me, you can score on primary. If you just only hold your home objective because it's just wave and wave of horde, you're going to lose the game, right?
Yep.
And then the opposite is also true, where especially with hordes of bodies, and I think you saw this from the Tyranid player, and I apologize, I forget his name, but the Tyranid player who finished top 4 at LVO, you saw in some of the interviews on War Games Live and Joe talking about it, where normally some people are used to taking deploy teleport homers as a secondary, or they're used to jumping around in the backfield of their opponents. When you've got that many bodies around, it gets really difficult to score some of those secondaries, whether they're tactical or, if you want to double up behind enemy lines and deploy teleport homers, if that's what you prefer. A lot of times versus hordes, you don't have the space to do that.
Yeah,
so you really need to have an action plan, really focus on not just how many bodies there are, but what is going to score you the points, what's going to get you what you need to. And then the other part of this game is that generally when you have your go turn, right, that's the terminology that a lot of players will use, your go turn, your push, you really have to push. Don't let up. Make sure you're taking everything and holding it back that's there, because you give them even an inch, they've got a lot of bodies that are going to fill in behind it. So those parts become really important for it. But the kicker, the last thing that I'll note as it goes to playing a horde, or maybe why people aren't going to play a horde, 10, 15 years ago, if I was playing this game, reaching over the table and moving that many models over the course of a couple days, I'd probably be more open to the consideration. Nowadays, even just playing my monsters, my demons, my back is sore, my knees are sore. That's just how it is. So there's definitely a physical toll that comes at playing a horde army, but you got to do it. A lot of times with people playing a horde army, these are often passion projects, right?
Yeah.
Putting a lot of hobby time into it.
Literally a labor of love.
Yeah. So, and often what do you see people doing with armies? Maybe not if it's, beautifully painted, but you'll see people throwing models onto their display, case or tray, that sort of thing. If you're being more meticulous with how you move your models, makes it a lot more difficult to do. But I think those are really kind of the key points that I had around, hordes, playing for them, playing against them, that sort of thing. Remember, it is a scoring game. You got to score primary, you got to score secondary. Take your actions that do those two things. Focus on doing that, and don't focus on the other things that aren't related to it. But Kicker, any final thoughts on this before we wrap it up?
I mean, like we said, it's a labor of love. It's a lot of minis to paint. It's a lot of minis to build and then paint, I should say, because just building is a chore on its own. And then pick up after each game. Like, I literally do a circle around the table 2 or 3 times. Like, don't want to lose one little trooper that's hiding. So it is something you are dedicated to, you're investing into. But at the same time, I think it's well worth it. It's just, you got to know that going in, that this is not going to be just a pain to build, or it's going to be a pain to, after every game, just putting them away in your box. Like, I'm always the last guy to leave a game because it takes me so long to put everything away. But 100% worth it if it is your jam. Man, I'll tell you, I have played everything from knights to elite armies to horde, and I gotta say, man, once you figure out the play style you like, you just got to go for it and enjoy it, even if it means you got to spend a little bit more time painting. So, like, every time I've tried to play something, like a month ago I was trying to play knights, I was just like, no, not doing it for me, not doing it for me. So yeah, guys, this hobby, it involves a lot of time, whether it's on the hobby desk or at the tournaments or after the tournament's picking up after yourself. So invest that time in what makes you happiest, whether it's painting a lot of miniatures and playing with a lot of miniatures, or just going with the elite stuff. But Nick, I do agree though, man. It can be a physical marathon sometimes. Yes. So yeah, you need to pace yourself. Sure. Do we have anything in the Frontline Entertainment news that we want to chat on, Nick?
Not particularly for this week. Seth will be back to cover all the affiliates. The one thing we'll definitely make sure to note, actually, I will. Actually, I said no, I didn't, but then I realized, yes, I got stuff to cover. Joe, War Games Live, he is an FLG affiliate here. So Joe will be at the Battle to End Alzheimer's streaming this weekend, where I will be playing. Joe is going to be streaming. We talked about it. So that event will be running Saturday and Sunday. So if you want to sit down and work on some, maybe you're going to be painting up your horde army yourself this weekend, why not put Joe War Games Live on and see what's happening at the Battle to End Alzheimer's? There's going to be a lot of great stuff going on at that event. So check that out. And then Joe will also be at Cherokee, obviously, the following weekend. So 2 great weekends in a row of coverage from Joe and the War Games.
Joe is telling me how happy he is. He's just kind of hanging out there in the Carolina, the East Coast right now, in Maryland. He's not having to travel too far. It's short road trips for him right now. So he's very much enjoying that. Yep. JC's putting on Battle to Alzheimer's. Do we know how big the event is? It looks like it's a really big event, right?
As of when I checked this afternoon, it is at 117 registered. Nice. There are 120 tickets available, so there still may be a few open spots if you want to come to Maryland and have and have the time to get here. Although
there's 3 tickets left. There's 3 tickets left.
3 tickets left. Yep.
Somebody buy those 3 tickets. It's for a good cause. Just do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Nick, let's jump into some community highlights. I know that every Wednesday we post, on the Frontline Gaming community page asking for people's hobby progress. What do
Yeah.
we got this week?
So first up, Carlos Gomez. This is an old world Lich priest. So from the Tomb Kings, old world. It's so hot right now.
Yeah.
It really is. Kicker, I gotta admit, I've been listening to some content about old world with the reviews, and it's trying its darndest to get me to play the game, but I've got too many commitments. It's trying real hard. But
all right,
yeah,
all right. We're not. This is just a thought exam. There's a thought exercise here, right? Just a little, test. If you're gonna play old world, what faction? Pick it. One faction.
Okay, so I played Skaven in Fantasy, but Skaven are not part of the active thing for
they're legacy
old
for
world.
old world now.
Yeah, so I probably wouldn't play them in that case.
Legendary.
I would probably play dwarves then.
Oh, dwarves, yeah.
I love dwarves. Dwarves
Yeah.
are great. I mean, I loved Gimli and Lord of the Rings. That was, and beards, drinking beer. Those are things that I enjoy. So I would play dwarves. Yeah.
Funny, that was actually my that's my, if I'm going to play old world, it's dwarves, hands down. It's hands down. They're just so cool, man.
Plus some of those models for Warhammer Fantasy for the dwarves were just so good as well. So that to me that's where I'd go for.
Timeless models.
But yeah, so Carlos, great work here on the Tomb King Priest. Next up, this is Daniel Galmond. I believe he's one of the hobby goblins, actually. And this is his Locust Heavy Destroyer. He says he's getting it ready for Cherokee. And Kicker, I anticipate he's not going to be the only one having Necron Destroyers at Cherokee. So.
Yeah, they're a little good right now. That's okay. That's okay. And you know what, though? It's okay if someone's running a really competitive meta list right now, as long as it looks as gorgeous as this, right? Yeah, this is beautiful.
Yep. Next up, we have Bobby Soto. And Bobby, I will be seeing at the Battle to End Alzheimer's this weekend. He's finishing up his Tyranids. He's also got some gaunts and other things like that where he calls them, I'll see if I can find a picture to share for next week, but pickled nids, where he's got like some of the gargants or some of the other like smaller guys, and just kind of has green stuff. So it's kind of this almost like smooth head carapace, but it looks like little pickles though. And with the green coloring, come on. But they're great. Bobby will be, this is also an opportunity for me to shout out Battle to End Alzheimer's again. So Bobby will have those there. Kicker, do these, I think we talked about this movie franchise earlier, but do these remind you of any particular alien species?
Yeah, just a little bit. Describe them for the people listening.
They're black with green highlights and parts that are there. So very much look like, the aliens from Aliens as far as the series. And I say that not as a bad thing. I say that as a compliment.
No, that's awesome.
We talked about how we love those movies.
Have you ever seen, I've seen somebody that did a very simple, like all black Tyranid army, and they used a gloss top coat, and it looked sick, man. It was such a simple paint job, and it looked so good.
Yeah. Sometimes that more monochrome, right? Like it's difficult to do and for it to pop. But when you see a real artist do it, though, it is to me one of the most impressive things, because it goes hard on the details, the shading, the highlighting. It's, I think, one of the great things that's out there. And then final one that we have for today, Kicker, this was, making sure I get the name, Chris Chance. This is his Gladiator. He says that it just needs some edge highlighting on the black, but this is a Gladiator Space Marine tank. We already talked about tanks and how they're pretty popular. You'll notice that he's got this with the assault cannon variant, so maybe he's planning to use his tank against hordes.
You're just talking.
Exactly. That's my thought process.
Gladiator tanks are really cool, though. I as much as I like hordes, I also love tanks. I love tanks and hordes together. The Gladiator tank, though, man, do you think we're going to be seeing a resurgence of it? No? What do you think? Come on, play some bets. Do you think we'll see quite a few Gladiators at Cherokee?
If there's a good chance I'm running Blood Angels at Cherokee, and the list that if I do run it, has three of them.
3. Okay, so yeah, there we go.
The Gladiator tank, I actually really like the design of it as well, because you get the grav tank element, but like it sort of looks like the old Predator kit. So I think it's like a real nice mashup of what is supposed to be this forward thinking kind of grav tank, but also having some of that, just that design that you expect from the Space Marine tanks, that it is kind of blocky. So I like it. I like it a lot. I need to add a few more to my collection.
No, that's awesome, man. Very, very cool. Yeah, well, I'm excited to see what happens at the battle. I'm rooting for you, dude. You're playing. You're playing. You're running
Yep.
your chaos stuff. Your
I'm
demons.
running demons. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Excited for you, man. I'm slightly jealous. Okay, extremely jealous. I might be going to a small tournament this weekend. I might not. It depends if I can get away for enough all Saturday. It's just a small RTT, but I've got my guard. I just finished painting the last mana core that I wanted to
There
get.
you go.
So yeah, I've got a list ready to go. It's beautifully painted. So if I'm not playing that this weekend, I will be bringing my army to Cherokee to play in the after hours. Friday night, Saturday night, as well as during the meet and greet. So yeah, you will get to see my army. Maybe you and I should roll dice Thursday night before we get going, man. I don't know.
We have not played. I mean, we've known each other and
No,
worked with
we
each
have
other now for about a year, but we haven't played. You don't truly know someone, kicker, until you play a game of 40K against them, right?
Very true statement.
Stare
my
at them
friend.
against the battlefield, look them in the eye, the pregame handshake, and then 3 hours later, that's
Yeah.
when you actually know somebody.
Yeah, we might hate each other. Who knows? We might hate each other. It depends how badly you beat me, right? No. No, I think that man, it's so funny because most of my friends are people that I've played a game just like randomly, and I'm like, oh, okay, now we'll be besties forever, and that's life,
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right. So you're playing, you're ready for your weekend.
Yep.
You want to take us out, man?
Yep, absolutely. Well, audience, thank you for joining us for another episode of Signals from the Frontline. We hope you enjoyed this one, and then have a great week. We will see you back here next week when Seth and I preview Cherokee Open. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, guys.